Welcome back. Sorry, I had a technical difficulty. I kind of fixed it up now, and it's working. So, welcome to another episode of Open Mic. I'm your host, Transi Chiri. I'm a psychic medium, a healer, and a coach. My co-host, Tanis Coughlin. I'll leave it to you. Go ahead.
I'm Tanis Coughlin. I'm owner and operator of Twila Lifestyle Community and the Twila Lifestyle Academy. I'm a Reiki master, crystal master, Celtic shamanic high priestess, a channel, and a galactic ambassador.
Hey, that's awesome. I heard a lot of good things this week from you about that new venture about galactic stuff. Maybe we can share a bit. It'll be interesting.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're starting our own show on a network. So stay tuned because you'll have more information coming up for that. And I will be, I've been asked to be on a show, which is called Beyond the Tin Hat. Tinfoil Hat? Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. With a guy named Ryan Stacy, who is prominent in the field and does investigations and stuff. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Quite honored. I'm honored to be asked. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. So tonight's episode, I thought, or I was called to talk about love. What is love? Where does it come from? Where does it go to? How can we acquire it? How can we store it? How can we get it? And it seems that in general, we're always running after it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is, but I think it's a good topic to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
So, based on your experience, where do you think it comes from?
Within. Not in your shirt, in your heart.
That's where it sits. Okay.
Well, it's energy, right? It's energy. So it's a high vibration energy is what it is. So we can pull it from source to run it as an energy. We can freely give it to others without worry of being in lack, without love, because love is all around us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The guides are there to share their love with us as well, and your ancestors and all of that stuff as well, which I'm sure you've seen that it's in your practice as well, in terms of being a medium and having them come back. I know my experience is they always come back to say, I love you, I miss you, all those all those comments. So yeah, so it's an energy, right? It's a frequency.
Absolutely. So my experience of it is, it's funny because I had a hard time understanding where it comes from. So all I've been told is open your heart, and I look and I open my heart and I start doing actually meditation and physically try to open and nothing was opening and I was blocked and I don't know what's wrong with me and to to realize there was nothing wrong with me. Nobody's blocked.
No.
It is your true essence. That's what it is. Like you mentioned, but we tend throughout the ages to refer to it as a heart-based vibration because that's where it's been. That's where it comes out from when your heart chakra is well open.
Mm-hmm.
And when it is semi-blocked, which is it's not really blocked, but it is kind of masked in my view. It kind of you turn into that ugly duckling format, and you kind of like suppress it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that dark little space that you're in, or the dark days that you're in, or the hours, or whatever it is, it still radiates from underneath the whole facade. It radiates under all the what do you call it?
Density.
Density. Yes, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And once the clouds move, the sun shines again.
Yep.
The sun doesn't. This is a good metaphor. The sun does not disappear.
No.
It's always shining, and it's always radiating.
Right.
It fills us with light. It gives us light. What do you call it? Warmth. It helps feed us, and it makes us see. So it's always there protecting us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love is like that, right? As well.
Absolutely. Only when a cloud passes by, then we realize, oh my God, where is love? And then, but it didn't go away.
Yeah.
Just clear the clouds a bit, blow on them to the right. Right is this way. Blow on them to the right, and everything will be fine again. It will. The sun will shine again. Actually, not again. It continues shining. You'll be able to see it.
That's it. It's about whether you're in awareness of love.
Yes, absolutely. See, one movie back in the, I think it's early 90s. Is it Jerry Maguire or something? You Complete Me? I can't remember who said it.
Maybe.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he was in that. So yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody started going, you completely, you complete me. And we all follow advertising and propaganda. Not propaganda. It was more advertising to sell something. So we all felt, I'm one of them, please. And then I realized, like, you're a broken vase, and you're waiting for another piece to complete you so that you can find love. But the reality is, you're not broken, and you're not missing pieces. And love is already in there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. So when we're running to look for something, it eludes us. And who said that? Was it the Tao Te Ching? I can't remember who said it. Oh, one of those big masters that is like, if you're looking for God, you can never find him. If you're looking for love, you can never find it. You can never achieve it. You can never gain it. You can't harvest it. You can be in a room filled with 7 billion people, and you can never feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you go inside and you start looking and you start feeling, that's when you realize that you're the source from the beginning.
Well, and all of the people around you, the love that you receive is just a mirroring your own back. Right?
Yeah.
So the there's that phrase that you can't love anyone else unless you love yourself.
Absolutely.
And that kind of goes along with that as well, right?
Yeah.
That we have to love ourselves first.
And to love ourselves is kind of a hard thing. I'd like to dive into it for a bit with you.
Mm-hmm.
How can I love myself? I'm already in love with myself, I think. But, if I just do a bit of a facelift over here, or maybe here, and
so I think love has a very big tie-in when it comes to self about acceptance. Mm-hmm. Self-acceptance, right? And that's brings us to that shadow work thing. So it's about loving all parts of yourself, not just what we perceive as good parts. It's all parts. So even those parts that, those ugly, the good, the bad, the ugly, we have to love all of it, not just the good, right? Because we all have stuff. We all do stuff that we regret. We say something that we shouldn't have said, or we react instead of respond, and we feel regret about it. And that's just who we are. But we can working on accepting all of those parts of you will help you to feel the love inside. Because I think when we have the denser emotions, mm-hmm. we tend to have more difficulty feeling that within.
Yeah, that's the suppression part of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Now, shadow work, and I know we touched on that topic a couple of times
Mm-hmm.
before, and I'd like to touch on it again because it's kind of scary for some,
Mm-hmm.
because you're diving into the unknown, you're diving into darkness, and you're diving into pain.
Are you though?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
Because we're the ones that put that on ourselves, right? By judging ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So are we diving into that? Or is it just a very honest, authentic look at self that's required? So is it that we have to battle all these inner things that come up? Or is it that we just pull them out and go, huh, yeah, I didn't do a very good job of that. All right, well, what did I learn from that? Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. So I know I'm going to do that differently. All right, so now I just need to forgive myself for doing it poorly the first time because I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were annoyed with our children all the time for not doing things right because they didn't know any different, why are we annoyed with ourselves when we didn't know any different? I think we're pretty hard on ourselves because we're all like learning too, right?
Yeah.
And we love our children unconditionally, even though they screw up, even though they, push the other kid at the playground, we still love them.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that we have so much trouble loving ourselves when we screw up? It's an interesting question. What do you think?
That brings us back to last week's episode. The ego.
Mm.
We were trying to protect it. We're trying not to protect it, but actually last week we did a great job in clearing its bad reputation, right? And then by clearing its bad reputation, we missed one small little thing, which is we didn't actually miss it. We actually touched on it. I remember now that we did touch on it, and that's the attachment to an outcome or an
Right.
attachment to something. See, and that's where our pain comes from, is that everything has to be proper. But the kids spilled the milk on the, I don't know, brand new table or something, and then I have to clean all of that. And dear Lord, this is supposed to be perfect, and he should have known to hold the cup properly, and I taught 100 times. And then we go through this story,
Mm-hmm.
and we build on the story as we tell it to others. And the little pea under the mattress, or 7 mattresses, I can't remember, was it the princess that
Yeah,
slept
something
on?
like that. Yeah.
it gets big. It gets big and becomes uncomfortable. And that's where the little pain that we dive into, which doesn't exist as per your explanation, which is true. So all we have to do is just take it out, look at it, acknowledge it, love ourselves, forgive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Renata. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, ladies. Lots of love.
Because it's much easier to be kind and forgiving toward other than it is towards ourselves. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Because we hold ourselves to the highest pedestal ever, and we have to be there. Let me tell you.
You have to be there. Sometimes
No, we
we've been
don't.
though, right? Because that's our programming. So oftentimes we get told through all of our program, and it's all subliminal, right? Like the ads on TV, get the perfect body, get the perfect this, right? So
Yes.
it's like programming through that, right? Or you go to school and your marks are actually, how can you get a better mark than what you had before?
Yeah.
Oh, so a better mark makes me more successful. So it's that the fear of not being good enough is ingrained through all of our systems that we have right now too, in terms of schooling, in terms of our jobs, in terms of all of those things. We always go through this, we're never good enough.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. Never good
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a programming, right? And I'm not minimizing it. I fight that all the time. We all do, I think, to a certain extent,
Oh, yes.
we think, well, if I don't do it right, then what's going to happen? Because we're in a punitive kind of world, right?
Mhm.
So it's all fear-based. We don't have, it's not really reward based. It's more like fear based in terms of punishment based
Yeah.
in our society at the moment. And that's where, there's been some stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Renata's saying it also doesn't help
Yeah.
when you have a parent that's like, oh, you got 99, but why not 100? Right? That perfectionist, like Shem is saying, yeah. The
Well,
perfectionist syndrome. Yeah.
sometimes it's not from the parent. I'll be honest with you. I had my daughter who was like that. I think she's still. But one day she was crying her eyes out because she got, I don't know, 85 or something. I can't remember. I go, oh my God. And actually, on the French, she got 65. She was destroyed after that. And I go, well, what are you talking about? This is the most perfect grade that you've ever gotten.
Yeah.
Because that's where you want it to be, and that's it. And just drop it. And she felt better at that point in time. She stopped crying because now there's no punishment. It doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't change her mindset. Of course, a
Yeah.
youngster, they have to still compare. So perfectionism is
Mm.
a key. Is a key.
There's a
But
word, compare.
compare, yeah. Where did you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, you said it.
Yeah.
It's what you said, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi,
And
Shem.
Aishan, and we missed something from Michelle, who said the ego is Mars. It tells us a lot about how we stand up for ourselves, good and bad.
Yes. Yes. Good old Mars.
That bloody Mars.
Yeah. Perfectionism keeps you paralyzed. It can, if we allow it to.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's where you start to try to um, step into being okay with where you are in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Am I safe? Am I happy? Am I here? If you can answer yes to those, that's a good start.
What I did the first episode, just to touch on perfectionism, the first episode of Open Mic, I recorded it. I passed it on to friends to get their opinion, not because I needed an opinion, it's just to get their opinion, because I wasn't sure about myself. And I got different, oh, well, if you do it this way, it would be better. It's good, but it's good, but. So I said, okay, yeah, I should redo it. And I sat on that episode for, I think, a week, actually. And then I posted it and I said, this is my perfect in its imperfection episode.
Yeah.
Please watch. And it got more approval from the viewers than if I perfected it and made it like 100% perfect, which there's no 100% perfect, but I could have done it to that point and it wouldn't have been good enough for me.
So, we all are doing the best we can. And we can really like what's the word I'm looking for? Like resonate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
When we get up here and we talk and we misspeak and we like look for words, everybody can relate to that because everybody's done that in their conversations. It makes you human. And so it helps people to connect to you if you're more authentic.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, 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 100%.
yeah,
100%. Authenticity connects you to others because now you're vibrating at the same level, at the same frequency as they are, and you're not being pretentious to make something look good. When if you're down to earth, this is it. Speech therapy. Yeah, that will be.
are you suggesting I need some help there, Renata?
Word finding difficulties. Yeah, I know. Sometimes
Maybe.
I freeze and I can't find the word, and then I find it in Arabic and I can't translate it into English, or for some reason it comes out in French and wouldn't translate. And I go, what is happening to my translation chip? Yes, it is.
I always joke there's some days when all my files are all over the floor instead of in the filing cabinet. The
Yeah.
file's in my head. Wait a minute, I have to find the file. Going through the file. And sometimes it's all over the floor, so it's wait a minute.
No, we got it. We got it.
I know, Renata. Thank you.
So, how can we fix our perfectionism, or yeah, let's say perfectionism? How can we fix that?
Acceptance,
Acceptance. And where does acceptance come from?
love for self.
Loving, absolutely. Loving ourselves. There's nothing more, there's nothing less. Once you get to that level of vibration, nothing matters. So, last Saturday, somebody from India asked me to do, we can just work on accepting ourselves where we are and as we are. Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
for sure. For
So,
sure.
go ahead.
And it doesn't mean that just because we're accepting of ourselves does not mean that we're not going to continue to strive to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Accepting does not imply stagnation where you are. It implies I'm okay with where I am right now, and I'll be okay with where I am tomorrow, because we are never the same person 2 days in a row. And so we continually can push to learn more, to be better, to do things in a different way if we want to, if we choose to. I mean, we don't want to change everything about ourselves every day, right? But there might be something. Today I'm going to work on this, or something presents itself and you're like, oh, that's new. Oh, so I now know if I do that, this is a better outcome. Okay, so I need to do that. Right?
Yeah.
So
other people's lives can seem better than ours because we're comparing their director's cuts with our behind the scene.
that's
Absolutely.
right.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That is like bang on the head. This
absolutely.
is bang on, yeah. And that's why social media messes up people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I was just going to say that because, we look on social media and everybody's smiling and look what I did today. And they don't show you that I got out of bed this morning and my hair was a mess. And I was like, here, I'm going to take a picture on social media. We just don't do that. we put straighten the hair and we, put on a nice face and we smile, and we don't get on there all full of tears. Well, I actually have seen this. So I think this trend is changing a little bit. I have seen on things like TikTok where people are just really authentic and they're just sharing their emotion and they're having an emotional day and they just get on there just to be.
Yeah.
And even that is helpful for others because, again, somebody else might be having that emotional day and they all of a sudden don't feel alone, right? If somebody is doing having a similar kind of day. And it's amazing. It's amazing the like the lightness that comes from knowing you're with others. It's almost like instantaneously you feel that the burden is shared, even if it has nothing to do with that other person and you don't know them. Somehow there's that shared experience that is created. So, even in social media, there is some good stuff about it as well in terms of that.
It's starting to change. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Good one over here we have. And not waiting until we get whatever size or whatever destination or whatever level of success. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can
To be
never
accepting.
get to that point unless you step in your power now.
Yeah.
And when you're in your power now, then you can climb that staircase one
Mm-hmm.
step at a time and advance along the way.
And so what does that mean to you then, Ramsey? Stepping into your power. I mean, what is that? What
It
does that mean?
means whatever I'm doing, like I mentioned regarding the first video that I did,
Mm-hmm.
it was perfect. If I watch it now, I go, "Oh my God, what did I do?" But it was perfect at that
Mm-hmm.
time, and it gave me the platform to get the courage to do number 2, 3, and I don't know how many we've done up till now. And every time it gets better and better, and every time the topics just flow
Yeah.
easily, and an hour passes like in a minute. So
Yeah.
you step in your power, you accept who you are at this point in time, and whatever you produce is the perfect production at that point in time, and then you start moving forward with it.
Yeah.
And you'll see things getting better. Because what happens is that we want to be that perfect athlete, but I overeat. I don't move, and but I want to be that runner in 3.5 seconds to go 100 meters. I go, oh my God, it's too hard. I can't get there. So I end up sitting in front of the TV, and that's what happens. But if I accept where I am today, and I start walking to the nearest store instead of, let's say, taking the car or the bus or whatever it is, then I'm progressing slowly, slowly, and we'll get to a better destination.
Mm-hmm.
So another one was, like I was going to say before, is my mediumship.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted it to be perfect. So every time I read for someone, doubt kicks in like there's no tomorrow. Oh my God, I can't say this. Am I dreaming it? No, I can't pass this message. I must be creating it in my mind. And then after the reading ends, I go, I was really good. The first, all the messages, all of them were right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But then the next reading, go back into the same doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So last Saturday, somebody wanted a reading from India. And I said, okay, fine. I had to do it early in the morning, Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, where I said, I'm going to sleep. So I woke up 8:45. I
Early.
go, to hell with this. I don't want to, I don't care if it's not right. I don't care about anything. So I sat there. And because I did not overthink it. I allowed it to flow. I did not care. From an egoistic point of view, I did not care. I gave him a 40-minute reading. It was one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed me to move one step higher, saying, okay, well, I did it because I pushed my ego away.
Mm-hmm.
I continue doing it for the future. And that's what I did on the Tuesday calls. And it was like one of the most, like, it's just propelling me forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michelle says she has clients in India too. It's usually either early AM or late PM.
Yep.
It would be late PM for me, just saying.
Well,
Not early morning for me. That's not my
I
thing.
did a reading for somebody in Australia, and I had to do it at 9 o'clock at night so that she can be 9 o'clock, or no, I think she was 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning over there, something like that. Yeah, I know it's hard when you're dealing with time differences.
But isn't it amazing though that you know, no matter where we are on the earth, that people are full of love.
Yes.
Have you noticed that? Like you know, my business was very local before the pandemic. And as I've expanded because of the pandemic, I've gone online. All of a sudden I realize I'm getting clients like all over the world, and there's no difference. It hits me like that there's no difference. I mean, there's differences in culturally and stuff like that, but in the essence of who we are, in the healing work that we all do, it's the same. We
Mm-hmm.
all have the same hangups. We all have the same, you know, perfectionist tendencies that we need to release. And it's amazing because it's all caught in that collective consciousness. So we're still fighting the collective consciousness when no matter where we are in the world.
Absolutely.
And yet the love is there.
Yeah.
It's looking inside to find that, right?
Yeah. I like to remind people that the ego is not our enemy. It's there for a reason. Absolutely, it is.
Mhm.
And it's not our enemy, and we should not be protecting it. It is there because this is who we are. It's a collection of experiences that created the character that we are today. And an ego is an attachment. That's the one that we have to be careful with. Because last week we had a good hour discussion on the ego. And that attachment is what we have to rein in, basically. Not destroy, just rein in.
Yeah. Just be aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like doing the shadow work. There's a scared, wounded child within us that is looking for love and acceptance. And here we are trying to constantly reject it.
Yeah.
Yes, that little child within us has to come out. The day that, well, that's from my experience. The day that you go down the street with I don't know, you jump in a puddle of water and you don't care what is happening, or you allow yourself to be a child without having to look at what is happening around you and who's looking, that's when you start releasing the the shackles. That's what it is. You're releasing the shackles because it feels like our inner child is always caged into that little space. And we, like you said, is correct. We cover it very well so that we don't want to hurt it. So we're covered very well, hurting it and hurting ourselves because that is us at the end of the day. And what we do is that we start looking for love everywhere else. We forget about the little child. So the minute you free that little child, you're on a roll.
So there's a connection between play and love, right?
Yes.
So there's a vibrational connection, of course. They're both high vibration. Like play is a high vibration activity, because it creates that joy that is also a high vibration emotion.
Yeah. The creation of the joy, I don't know, the joy and love, they're kind of similar on a vibrational scale. You allow them to not shine, but vibrate, or you allow them to come out. You don't block them anymore. And that the joy and love are your true nature as a human being. Our true nature is not being miserable at the office 9 to 5. Our true nature is to be happy and joyful at the office 9 to 5. That's our true nature.
And to show love to others.
Yes.
And there's a certain amount of people perceive that we only have so much love to give, right? There's a lack around it, but there is no lack in love. It's energy. It's universal life force energy. So there's no lack in that.
Renata says you should tell my bosses that. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know, maybe our company evolved throughout the years, or maybe not. But or I evolved only. I don't know. And with my evolution, things started to look different, but they were there from before. I can't tell you. But what I do right now, I give 110% of my time, my mind towards the work, the job that I'm doing. If I achieve the final results, it is great. If I do not achieve the final result that they want, it's still great. As long as I know that I gave 110% of myself to the work that I'm doing.
Right.
And open communication also helped in relieving the stress of not achieving and flowing the information upwards and downwards so that everyone is aware of what is happening. So in the old days, upper management will hold all the information. It's like, oh God, you should not, don't tell these employees about. No, it's just let everybody know, and everybody has their abilities to contribute for the global benefit of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I saw my company evolve from 1960 type of you shall do and you're not supposed to say any word and you just do it and that's it, and to a more open relationship between the top of the company and the people at the lower part of the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
Yeah, and
because working
that's where we start seeing more of that change to the flatter organizations, right? Where there's more, it's more of an us, all of us, as a like that universal love, universal us as a company. Um, so it creates more of it's a flatter organization where there's more information shared and more autonomy given to different groups and accountability for everybody to play a role in all of the functioning of the business.
inclusivity.
Yes.
That is a key to to promote, not to promote, but to allow people to shine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if an employee makes a mistake and we hit them on the head with a hammer, the next
That's
time
not
they make
legal, just saying.
oh yeah, when it was
HR
legal,
hat. That's a health and safety risk. Yeah.
when it was legal in not long distant past, um, you're alienating that person.
Yeah.
You're making them not good enough for the job. So they lose their self-esteem and then they actually don't perform well.
That's right.
When you include them in the process, they make a mistake and they bring it forward because now the communication is open. You're allowing them to come over. You sit with the employee and you find ways to correct the mistake and create processes in the meantime with that person so that mistakes like this do not happen.
Right.
They become empowered. And not only just empowered in the term of empowerment, but actually they'll give more because now they're part of the process. They are the one that created, they are the one that can make a mistake in the future unintentionally and know that there's a way to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that brings people in.
Huge
And
for employee engagement that way.
yes,
Right.
yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. Now, Michelle said it's the ego which has created the idea of separateness from God or the Atman. The working of egoism is very mysterious. It is very difficult to detect its various ways of working. It needs subtle and sharp intellect to find out its operation. If you practice introspection daily in silence, you will be able to find out its mysterious ways of working.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And demonstrating employee appreciation, Renata says, yes.
Yes.
That's another huge one for engagement, right?
Yes. What
Show your
I
employee
realized,
love.
no, what I realized throughout the career is that when a boss or your whoever he is comes over, actually, because I had to do a presentation on inclusivity in the workplace and diversity and all of that to a group of people. And one of the employees, who not a direct report to me, is a direct report to someone that reports to me, came and said that, I was in the old job and the boss would say, and no one will see him. He sits in the little corner office somewhere and, sneaks in, sneaks out. I don't know what happens there. But he goes, I walked into this place and the president is eating with everybody in the cafeteria. The VP finance is talking to everyone. There's no one like, oh, no, this is the VP or this is the president, or it's all part of the same family. Because it was such a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows people to feel comfortable in the workplace.
Yeah.
They are not learning anything from it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why it's important to have um, a learning organization, right? Learning organizations are the ones that do this. It's like doing your own healing work.
Mm-hmm.
Organizations need to do that self-reflection in what they've done in order to, or what's happening. And that's where like things like the quality indicator reports come out, and you take a look and where are we not. And I think there is a misconception to some companies, and they use the quality indicators as a punitive thing, when really they could be a learning organization and learn from that and do this engagement piece. And that's really where the strength of those quality indicator reports are, right?
Yeah.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with that term, the quality indicators are like when you take measures of where you're at, and there's certain numbers for each. It's a metric that you look at for companies. So like your turnover rate, for instance, like Renata's talking about, right? When you have a turnover rate and it's higher than what your like average would be. So, oh, that's just an it's like a PowerPoint or a pinch point, right? That you need to look at that little pinch point because there's something going on there. It's just like for us when we have a reaction instead of a response to something. That's our little pinch point. We have to kind of go in there and take a look at what's going on. So as an organization, the quality reports become that part if a company is willing to do it as a learning organization. Otherwise, if you're not looking at it, they're going to stagnate, especially in this market now. Sorry, got my hat on, my work hat on, my HR hat. Somehow my management hat gone there.
So I put in my management finance hat on, and I fully agree with you. We do get these indicators every other month, or every month actually.
Mhm.
I was going to say every other week, and we do follow up on them. And if the management is engaged, then something good comes out of it. If the management is not engaged, then it's another set of numbers that you collect, put them in a file, and put them in some kind of a drawer. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no point in. I think it's a bit of a false economy in terms of if you have your employees working on these KPIs or the quality indicators, and they give you these reports and you don't do anything with it. Well, you've just wasted that money on
Yeah.
having it prepared, because what's the point of having it prepared if you're not going to act on it?
It's good to have.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what happens in certain companies. It's good to have. We're collecting them. We're doing everything we can show our employees that we are doing, but there's no action that comes out of it. And not that the employees don't see that.
Well, even the employees, though, if you're showing your employees, that is an action. I
Yeah.
mean, if there's nothing, like if you literally take it and you put it in a drawer, not even looked at, then it's a
No.
waste. It's a waste of money.
Mm.
Because at least if you're showing the employees, then they're getting something out of it. They'll get that there's progress, or they'll see that there's movement, or something.
Yeah.
They'll get something out of it. But if you don't do anything with it, then they're wasting their money having it prepared.
Absolutely. No, we do use that every time it comes out. We evaluate why people are leaving, what is the
Mhm.
age bracket, and so on, to figure out how we can retain talent. And in
Mhm.
today's, why am I going into that? Let's go back into the hocus pocus,
Well,
ego, and love. But
it's
actually,
okay.
love is
It's
part
all
of it.
related because
Yes,
we're humans and we do have to work in a workplace. So,
yeah,
how do we work our way through all of this and still have love for each other in the workplace? I mean, there's so many toxic environments right now,
yes.
in terms of workplace thing, and it's because we're not showing each other that love. And why? Because we're comparing each other to each other all the time.
Mm.
And unfortunately, the KPI reports tend to do that. They do tend to put you in that position.
One time I had a one employee that had an argument with another one, but the other one is an old timer, old school,
Hmm.
banged on the table. I guess he raised his voice, and my employee just fell into pieces.
Hmm.
So I took him out for a walk so that he can, release that energy. And afterward, I coached him. We had a good talk, a long talk. I said, okay, tomorrow you will go into the other person's office, and based on our discussion, you could be wrong. You apologize for the way you started the conversation. And then from there, you affirm that you do not accept such a reaction. And there's nothing wrong with that. Love, forgive and forget, and let's move on.
Yeah.
I think he lost 10 pounds in 5 minutes when I told him that. He stressed out, but he did sleep on it. And the next day, he collected himself, all his pieces, walked into that office, showed compassion, showed understanding, and spoke from a loving place.
Right.
And it was, according to him, the best thing that ever happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
And those two employees were on a good term until the old timer retired.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is just, if you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's about
The
moving
person-
forward, right?
Yes, if the other person misread your intention, you're wrong, even if you're right. And you're never wrong, but in this case, you're not right. So just go in and apologize and be apologetic, and not from a say, oh, yeah, I apologize. Well, you're such an ass. No, let it come from the heart, a true apology, then get to the point, and from there, close the argument by being firm and what do you call it? Being firm and loving at the same time, not confrontational.
That's right. Yeah.
And things just fall apart. All this.
And that would be like putting up your boundaries, right?
Yes.
So in that situation, so I am really sorry that I triggered you, or whatever the case may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a boundary around being treated the way you treated me yesterday, and so I'm really sorry that we had this. I think that we got off on the wrong foot, but you know, I think that we can change our interactions going forward. You know, something along those lines as well, right? Would be, it's putting up that boundary, saying this.
Yeah.
That is a sticking point for me. I do, and we treat each other. We teach each other how to be treated, right? In doing that, so yeah.
That's what happened. That was years ago. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but that was the route that he took.
Mm-hmm.
Things have to fall apart in order to come together in a more aligned way.
Yeah, sometimes I think that, you know, it takes work either way. So you have to realize that there's something not working first before you can align things differently. And so sometimes that pain point of having them fall apart is sometimes what is the realization that, oh, something's not working. This isn't working for me.
Or
Right?
it takes one awakened person to crack it.
Yeah.
By being the loving, caring person, showing that outward. Because what happened, we're all vibrational frequencies. So if you wake up in the morning and you're in a bad mood because you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you're vibrating in that way. Then you get on the road going to work, everybody's bloody cutting you off, and nobody knows how to drive. And what the hell is wrong with people today? Full moon, crazy moon, it's raining.
Yeah, I blame it on the energy. The energy's crazy today. Yeah.
You get to the office, you're so now more charged with that energy. So you walk in and you just, how am I going to explain this? But you radiate it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are ready to receive it, they'll get it very quickly, and they start acting in that fashion.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do is I start jumping up and down before getting into the office, just to release whatever stress that I'm holding, or or frustration that I'm holding. Sometimes I just take a deep breath before I choke someone, but
Well,
then I
I'm glad
just,
you breathed before you choke. That's good.
so I do breathe in a couple of times. I just bring my what do you call it, emotions down, so that my heart could flourish
Mhm.
and I can think properly. Then the action that I take is not emotionally charged, negatively emotionally charged,
Yes.
but a positively charged action to something. All we can say to a joke is
Yes, exactly. We want a written contract for that consent.
I listen, I do understand. I manage people around the globe. I have a huge team in Montreal, Italy, UK, India, Australia, Malaysia. And of course, somebody's going to sometimes trigger you, not because
Piss
they
you
are
off. Piss you
triggers.
off.
Yeah.
They're going to piss you off. Yeah.
But that's because you have a soft point somewhere
Yeah.
where they found it and they just went
Yeah.
directly into it.
Yeah.
So, since all these things are illegal now, you have to kind of pull back and breathe it down and act so that you can get it right.
Mhm.
Because to react is to recharge the same negative energy into a big ball and throwing it out. I don't say anything.
Well, and that's the big, that's the whole healing journey thing, right? Because
Yeah.
as you go through the healing journey, you start to get to the bottom of what those triggers are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can get to the bottom of the triggers, there are less of them because you can clear the triggers before you get triggered when you
Absolutely.
start that journey. And that's the beauty of starting on that healing
Yeah.
journey that we're going on, right? Because that way, and I always use a business thing actually with my clients when you're talking about that stuff. I bring in the root cause analysis because, when something happens, it's never the surface reason, right? There's always a root cause to it, which is like 5 whys down usually. So asking why 5 times is how you get to the root of it. And that's how you start to work through your healing stuff too, right?
Yeah.
So I'm reacting to this guy. Why am I reacting? Because he makes me angry. Why am I angry?
I can't remember who said that. You're never upset at the thing you think you are upset at.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's Eckhart Tolle or someone else. There's always an underlying issue
Yeah.
that never surfaces. It's not on the surface for you to see it, but it hits you, and that's what rises quickly.
Yeah.
That's what rises. And then that's when you were saying 5 levels down. Yes. And it could
Yeah.
be deeper even.
Yeah.
See,
And
I
most
went,
times it goes down to a fear. When we're reacting, there's always a fear at the base of it. What are we afraid of?
yeah,
Right? That's
not being
basic.
seen or
Or being
being
abandoned. That's another big one.
abandoned. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or not being perfect, which actually is a fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
But
You're not going to be included anymore
right.
in my little club.
Mm-hmm.
And
You have
that's
a
what
club?
marketing. Oops. I
Am
don't
I
want
a
to include
member?
you. Well, that's how marketing works.
True.
They create let's say the Louis Vuitton club. Not everybody can afford a $10,000 purse. So you're part of the elite that, and I'm not going to use a word elite because now everybody can almost get one, even if they go on a hunger strike for a year and they buy a purse and they hold it. But you're part of that group of people, the select few that are allowed to hold this purse. So
Mhm.
you feel that sense of belonging to the, let's say, Louis Vuitton club.
Mhm.
and be part of it. So when you're carrying your purse, you're carrying your identity with you. That is your identity. So when you're excluded, that's when we start to fall apart. Oh, nobody wants to. So I can't get into the Louis Vuitton. Maybe I can get into, I don't know, something else which is cheaper, and go, oh, now I'm part of Donna Karen New York or something. I don't know. I'm sorry. I really don't know these things.
Me
So
either.
so
It's not
you,
my
you
thing.
you choose a club that is a bit less expensive, that you can afford, and be part of it.
Mhm.
And we always want to be included in whatever it is that is being done.
Because we have that need for connection.
We have the need for connection, and then we have a fear of being abandoned, like you mentioned. And we also want to be loved on the surface, because we can't find it. Now we can't find it. It is in us, it is radiating, but we're like putting so much pressure on it to keep it down so that we don't get hurt by allowing it to go out. So we hold that little child in us, cough, cough. And so we hold that inner child within us, and we suffer with it.
Yeah.
And we look for the love in all the wrong places.
Yeah. Yeah. When it's that inner child that needs love.
That
It's
inner
that
child.
it's that be your own best friend thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's hard. It was funny. I said to a friend of mine today, like, they were being hard on themselves for their physicality. And I was like, don't talk about my friend that way. And he was being, self-deprecating or whatever. And I'm like, don't talk about my friend that way. That he thought about that for a minute. He's like, oh, okay. But it's true, we talk about ourselves in a way that we would never talk about a friend like that.
Yes.
Right? Because we don't have that sort of self-love piece. That's, if we can love ourselves, then we would love ourselves in the way that we love our friends. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm working on it, but it's a hard thing to do.
I was coaching someone who would put themselves down all the time. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a this. I go, but why are you telling yourself that? Oh, no, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So I sat her down and I showed her how her joke is working on her life. And at the end, she started crying to say, my daughter does the same now. You're taking your lack of self-love or self-esteem, and you're passing it on to another generation who look up to us,
Mm-hmm.
where they find their strength in their parents. And while the parent is joking about themselves, they're not only hurting themselves, they're hurting the next generation. And that's when it was an eye opening. And then she started to change. And every time she catches herself, she just pulls back. And I go, there's nothing wrong with it. As long as you're catching,
Mm-hmm.
with time, it disappears.
And that's where that self-forgiveness comes in, right?
Yes.
Because she didn't know.
No.
So it's not about, so when those things come up, I think we tend to, it's a funny cycle, right? We notice something like that about ourselves, and it's whether it's pointed out or whether we do it to ourselves, and then we get hard on ourselves because we're not perfect, and we are more self-deprecating because we're not being, so it's a bit of a cycle that needs to be broken. And that's often why I use the Ho'oponopono in the mirror with people, because it helps them to break some of that cycle.
Okay, Renata, I identify as mermaid, possibly a unicorn, definitely not a Louis Vuitton bag. I guess I'm further along than I thought. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I love the Unicorn Club. It is one of the best clubs available. Maybe we'll see each other in one of those meetings, gatherings.
Do we have that kind of club? If not, we should start it. Let's have a unicorn club. And Jennifer says, be careful with that line of thought, though, to make sure we don't then beat ourselves up for doing that. Yeah, which is what I said.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't want to beat yourself up. It is like a cycle then if we do that.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I mean, we have to go through the self-reflection in order to make progress, because that's how we get to know ourselves, is doing self-reflection.
And okay, I know people will say it is hard, it is painful, whatever it is. I tell you, I went through a couple of dark night of the soul, what is called in the spiritual world the dark night of the soul. I literally clawed myself out of it. And in hindsight, it wasn't that painful. But at that point in time, you're not sure what is happening.
Yeah.
There's that mystery behind it. Nothing is moving, nothing is changing, and you're still in that bloody dark pit. And then when you switch, there's a point where all of this combined is like a nuclear explosion. But you know, when the fusion, that one little drop that goes into that atom and it splits it, take that and make it very slow. And that's how I felt it started to evolve. And then I started to see, and I started to change, and I started to become. And slowly, I got there. And I go, my God, that was like painful. But then looking at it, oh, no, that wasn't painful. Because I did it a second time, because the cycle was not complete.
Yeah.
Let's say I reached the first level, and there were two more that I had to go through. And then
we're still going through, right?
Yes.
We go through it every day. It's just different amounts.
Exactly. The intensity with time, it becomes less. And now what I do is that I see it happening. I see it coming. I sit, I reflect on it, and then the love and the forgiveness and the compassion kicks in like immediately. And that's because I've done it multiple times before.
Mm-hmm. It's a practice.
And every time the healing is just easier and faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
And just to say one thing, I don't like the term dark night of the soul, because the soul has no dark night. The soul is just perfect.
It's all light.
It's all light. It is dark night of the ego. That's where it is. That's where your character, all of you, shatters. It explodes into dust, literally. And then you have to sweep it from every corner and rebuild yourself into a better version of what you were 2 minutes before. Not yesterday, not 10 years ago. It's 2 minutes before. And every 2 minutes you rebuild on the 2 minutes until your new you shine. And that's when your little kid starts going out and doing stuff that, really, I do that? Oh yeah, you do that.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out on the street and then the song kicks in your head, and you might just, get the rhythm to move with it, and that's okay.
And the more we can accept that we're perfectly imperfect, the easier we walk into that. The easier we can accept that it's okay, that we're a work in progress. We are a beautiful work in progress always. As long as we are here, we are a work in progress.
If you're a finance guy or an accountant or something, you're a whip. You sit on the balance sheet and you grow with time. Since we were talking about our profession, so I had to bring in the balance sheet. It's an asset, let me tell you. It's not a liability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Beautiful. So love for self is primary.
I had a potential since elementary school, always growing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We're all growing. If you're not doing self-reflection, it's harder and it's a slower process. But we're all growing because we can't help but do that here.
Yeah. That's Margie.
Oh, that's Margie. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Margie. Yeah.
Growth is part of us, if we
It
like
is.
it or not. And also change is part of us.
Mhm.
We say that change is hard. It's not hard. Change is what happened is what happened to us every day.
Yeah.
We change because an experience of yesterday changes our direction of today. But we don't actually notice it because we're just blindly moving throughout time. But the day that we start looking inward and trying to see who we are and how we act and how we can um, make ourselves a better version of who we were, then we start to realize that the change is part of us.
Mhm.
Whoever said that change is the only constant in the universe is right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can never have a good summer unless you have a harsh winter.
Yeah. Well, you have to have, that's the balance,
Yeah.
right? We can't, if we had the same weather all the time, we would get bored. We would never appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so that's how we look at like appreciation, gratitude, and how does that come into all of this? Right? In order to appreciate something and have gratitude for it, we have to see both sides. And that's why the shadow work is important too, because the more we can see that side, the more we can appreciate the good parts of ourselves.
And the bad side is not a bad side. It's
No.
just a label we created it.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So
The denser stuff. The denser stuff.
Yes, yes. I don't know if I mentioned it last week. I was reading the Andean about the Andean society, and they have 3 levels of the vibration. One is the top level, which is the lighter. The middle level is where we live, where we are, and the lower level where the energy is a bit denser, where everything rises from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it grows from there. So they don't call it the good, the bad, and here's the ugly in the middle. No, they're all part of one. You can't rise unless you're here, and you can't get here unless you were there. So there's a growth process that leads us to a lighter vibration,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to go through that.
Yeah. And we need to embrace that process, because if it wasn't happening, we'd be stagnant.
Yes, and what happens to stagnant water? It dies. It stings.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be continuously moving and changing.
Mm-hmm.
The river of 5 minutes ago is not the same river as now, and it's not the same as 1 hour from now.
Yep.
It always changing. Rocks moves, they get worn out, sand is created, the water comes in hard, it creates a new curvature in the land, and so on. It's always, always, always moving and changing.
Mm-hmm.
But we resist that because I am perfect.
Well, if
I am.
if we need to be perfect, think that we're close, and then everything changes, that creates a whole lot of anxiety, because then we're like, well, I was so close. It's almost like moving the finish line every time.
Yeah.
Right?
But there is no finish line.
Exactly.
There is no finish line.
Yeah.
What would you do at the finish line? Okay, you have champagne, and then
you look for the next thing to change. But it is important, having said that, it is important to have not the champagne, but the celebration.
Yes.
For your little wins, right?
Because it solidifies you at that level.
Mm-hmm.
It just, oh yeah, I'm second now. Let me work a bit harder, and I'll go on first, and then I'll finish this, and then instead of doing it in 5 minutes, I'll do it in 3, and so on. Mm-hmm. And then I create a new challenge for me.
Mm-hmm. Gratitude is all about, when you talk about those celebrations, it's a gratitude for being where you are. I'm grateful to have grown.
It's also important to have people around you who are capable of supporting your journey.
And seeing the beauty within.
seeing the beauty within you, acknowledging where you are and giving yourself credit for how far you've come.
Yeah, exactly.
Two things, which I thought we will talk about the pillars of success next week, but we can bring something into it this time around. The tribe to clap behind you to push you forward is one of those pillars of success, where it gives you the motivation and the push in order to move forward. What I realize is that if you're not in line with who you are, if you're not in line with what you want to do, those people can do nothing for you. They can sit and cheer, and then at the end, everything will fall apart, and you can blame the whole world for it, and maybe you can blame yourself too.
But blame doesn't get us anywhere.
No, but that's a human thing. Is that the first thing
Yeah.
we have to find? Oh, why did I fail? No, well, you failed because you weren't aligned with who you are. So although the tribe are good to push forward, you have to make sure that you're on the right path.
Well, that's why there's more than one pillar.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. They're multiple.
Because it takes more than one pillar to hold you up.
Yeah.
In terms of that.
That's true. You can't rely on others to carry you. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jen says, modern day has taken the dark night to be deep sorrow, but when St. John wrote it, he was expressing joy for the darkness that made him go inward for light, to join with his beloved to be transformed.
I fully agree with that statement. Fully.
Yeah. To Jen, there's definitely beauty to be found in the dark. Yep. Yeah. And what a powerhouse of people we got on tonight.
Yes.
What a beautiful group.
And all these beautiful questions.
Thank you all for contributing. And sharing your energy. That's awesome.
Absolutely. The dark night is the catalyst for the light to shine. And without it, you can never see it. You think you see it, but it's an imaginary light that you create. It's not the true light that shines from within. And you need that darkness. You need that, if you want to call it pain, it is pain. You're welcome, Renata. Thanks for
Our
doing
pleasure.
this. So it's the pain that you collect and you say, well, this is me, this is me, this is me, this is me. And then everything collapses. And from there, it's like you're under the ashes. That's the dark. And then you rise from there. It is very important to our progression to go through it. And yes, it is not deep sorrow. It was never a deep sorrow for me, at least.
No, it's a deep introspection as opposed to deep sorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. When there's a pain point and you know that something has to change. And oftentimes those would be your bigger pain points that need to be addressed, right? So we said something earlier about, you have to step into the chaos to make change. And that's because we're all pretty stubborn and we don't like to change like easily. And so if we went with the flow and changed easily, it wouldn't be hard. It wouldn't be, the dark night of the soul. It would be just a change as all others.
And I see it from my perspective, from my experience, is that I built up on a lot of pain throughout. So that had to happen for it to, and now like it's a daily practice of change. The literal translation would be obscured as opposed to dark.
Oh, yeah. So you're bringing it into the light, or you're bringing it into clear.
Yeah.
As opposed to being hidden, it's clarity. And Renata says it can feel like death because it's the perception of who you thought you were falling away. But that can be an extremely unsettling emotional experience. Yes, it can. I strive to remember that emotions are energy. And so much like, when you jumped up and down before you go into the office,
Yeah.
that's to move the energy. So emotions, we see them as a bad thing, but if we can see them as energy and that they need to be able to flow, and we don't want to push it down, we need to be able to express in a way that's healthy and, and that we feel heard and that we're moving the energy. That's why, physical stuff helps us to move the energy through, because it's actually moving it through the chakras and it helps you to release, right? But we do have to go through that experience of pulling that emotion out and going, ugh, that doesn't feel so good. Okay. Why doesn't this feel good? It's just uncomfortable. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to sit with this for a minute and I'm going to acknowledge that I have this. And then I'm going to move the energy. And so I'm going to release it in whatever way, tears are a form of releasing, jumping up and down, you're releasing or moving energy. Physical stuff helps us to do that. Jen says Sufi teachings, as well as many other mystic teaching, talk about the need to die before we die. And that is never easy, but amazingly powerful. Yeah.
Yes. Die before you die and realize that death doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can do a meditation on that and literally go into, I think Buddhists, they do that. It's a hard meditation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laurel, hi again.
Hi, Laurel. I saw her last night. That's why people talk about it being a dark experience, though, I think, because the old egoic concept is fighting for survival. It takes time and work to let go of that. Yep, it does, for sure. And willingness to change. And and change is hard. Change is not something we enjoy, even though we're immersed in it all the time. I think sometimes we get like change stressed, like if there's a lot of change happening, it can stress us because it is a lot of energy moving through in order to make those changes.
And that's because we're creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it feels hard. Mm-hmm. It's just you're breaking a habit.
Yes.
It's like smoking.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest habits, but you can break it and you can break any other habit. And that's where change kicks in. And I agree with you is that the ego gets shattered. That's what I said before, is that my whole me turned into dust.
Mm-hmm.
I had to recollect it into small little pieces in a little bin and then slowly rebuild the new me.
And is it the new you, or is it just that you're starting to discover more of who you are?
It is two things. The old egoistic patterns that needed to leave were not rebuilt within the new me, and discovering who I am at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, because there's definitely an aspect of self-discovery and all of that. Change is new, so change is automatically scary to the ego. To the brain and ego is what demands to have all answers ahead of time, because that creates false sense of security. Yeah, sometimes we don't want those pieces picked back up. We just need to shred them so the true I'm thinking true self is and can be realized. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, those are the ashes, right? We leave the ashes behind and we move forward. It's like releasing the stuff that no longer serves us. And we go through stages where we do that more because we know there's a bunch of stuff that's not serving us. I'm kind of doing a bit of that right now in terms of, activities that I'm doing and that sort of thing, because it's not serving me. So
it's like the phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
It flies for 2,000 years, comes back to the Mediterranean, burn itself, and from the ashes, a new phoenix rises and goes back to live 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Autocorrect. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
no worries.
I don't know how
And the
my
real
life.
is in a parallel universe. Well, I mean, that's a deep question. Ask your guides. Sit down and write down whatever comes through. What is your life like in a parallel universe? I think that all things are possible. So it depends which universe you're going to tune into, right? You've probably got a universe where things are way better, and then probably got a universe where things are way worse in terms of timelines, right? I'm assuming that's what you're referring to as timelines. So when we go out and we make a decision to turn left instead of right, both are created, right? And so that's what I think that's what you're referring to, is what is it like in the yes when I pick no, or sort of thing, right? And that happens multiple times, and so there's innumerable.
That's what I was going to say, is that pick a fork in the road and take the other road and meditate on it, and you'll see the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see the path.
Yeah.
But both paths are the right path.
They both lead you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes so there's 2 points in your life. Sometimes we go like this. Sometimes we go like this. We always end up here somewhere, but Renata says the modern marvels of technology, the autocorrect. Yeah, of course. For sure. So how does all of this tie into love? Let's look at that.
When I shattered into pieces and picked up the dust, with every grain that I glued, it was glued with a bit of love. The love that I never gave myself, or I never acknowledged that myself had, was what reshaped the person that became.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go through a dark night of the soul, or the dark night of the ego, or whatever it is, any dark night of whatever form or shape it is when you realize that you have suppressed the love for yourself for such a long time.
Mm-hmm. So that really is the crux of it all, is love for self.
Because once you love yourself, everything falls into place.
Mm-hmm.
Everything falls into place.
And you realize that love is abundant. It is not in lack. And so
it is who we are. It is infinite, but infinite. And I say that because I channeled somebody's grandmother on Tuesday. And the amount of love that she showed me, I wasn't able to speak. I was choking, and I wanted to cry. I wanted actually to turn off the camera so I can go bawl my eyes out and come back and talk to the person.
Mm-hmm.
That's how strong it is. And I saw it from the other side, where they do not have a physical body to show that love with a hug, to show that love with a word or anything. It's just it's like a fire hydrant that broke, and that love is just coming out.
Well, I had an experience with the archangels this week, like that as well. Because when they come in and they're really working, they were working with one of my clients really closely, and it's like overwhelming. The love and the heart chakra just opens up, and anything that's in there that's gunky has to come out. So, you just like start releasing and processing all the energy, because that heart chakra just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Beautiful feeling. Yeah. Very cleansing. So love can cleanse, right? And that's what 100%. Your tribe helps with. When we talk about that pillar of support, right? Being that tribe, your tribe comes forward and gives you that love for cleansing, love for support to help you work through stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
There's more than one way to get there, and they're always moving in the same general direction.
Mm-hmm. We are love. That is our existence. So it's basically meeting ourselves in the true sense. It is.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a true statement. That is a true statement, and that's why it is very important to allow the little child within us to run free.
And I invite you all to get crayons and a coloring book. That's I did that because I was doing some work on my inner child. And so I bought a coloring book and crayons. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put fun music on and I'm going to sit here and color.
Mm-hmm.
Because my child wanted to color. I mean, maybe it's not a coloring book for you. Maybe it's something else, right? Maybe your inner child really liked Tonka trucks or matchbook cars
Or maybe dancing, or maybe
dancing, yes, or singing.
or singing. Anything that has a flow of energy, a creative flow of energy.
Yes, that's right, creative.
Yeah.
Because we create that energy.
I could say shopping, but shopping doesn't have
That's not
creation.
creative.
Unlike you, yeah. Anyways, let's not. But this creative energy, it is amazing how it transforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, that jumping up and down. It is a movement of energy. You're allowing it to go up. You're allowing a certain part to go down. So I did a reading for 8 people in a row. So I had to do the one, and then to jump to the other, I had to release. So you jump and you go, and you jump and you go, and you jump and you go, and at the end of it, you feel like, oh my God, this was awesome.
Yep.
Because you allow your creativity to flow. You're not inhibiting anything. Your ego is not allowing. No, you're not allowing your ego to take over.
Right.
That's what it is. Playing piano, absolutely.
Yep. Exactly.
It's awesome. So it's basically meeting ourselves in the truest sense. Absolutely. We are love. We're always love. There's nothing else. Love is not an emotion. Love is not something that comes out of something. It is us. It is our true essence that shines.
It is. Yeah. And it's an energy, right? It's all about the energy. So.
Anyways, everyone, we're past the hour and we're still talking. Oh my God. I love that. I love it. I love it.
Well, we had so much wonderful input. So, thank you all for being on. We're so honored that you were here to go on this journey with us. And it's always fun to bring in the comments. I love this format for this. It works out really well.
Thank you. And we'll see you next Thursday. It'll be also an interesting discussion. Can't wait to see you all.
Lots of love, everyone.
I can't get it right now. I got it right. All right. Good night.
Good night, everyone.